Where are they now? Plant updates. In this video, I'm going to show you some very special plants I did some very special things to in 2022, and I'll show you how they're tracking. First up is my Epipremnum aureum Enjoy, or Snow Queen as we call it in Australia. The Enjoy is a slow grower, so making this moss wall in winter with this particular plant was not going to lead to a very luscious looking moss wall in a few months. But this moss wall is making a lot of progress. This is what it looked like back when I created it. It was pretty small, but as you can see, we're getting some new leaves coming through, and those vines are coming up that moss wall. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 vines on there, and they are coming up really nice. Look at the variegation on the leaves there. It's looking very, very good. This plant is sitting in a very nice, warm, well-lit spot, and that's why you can see that that variegation is looking absolutely fantastic. It is living in Leca, as you might know. There is that plant there, and that's the back there. So the reservoir is inside there, and I keep it in this white cache pot just because I don't want algae to develop in that nutrient solution and to be on that leca. But overall, I'm very happy with what this plant is doing. I use my trusty precious spray to keep that moss wall moist, and all I do is just zap it that way. And because that moss wall is very thin, using that precious sprayer is more than enough to keep that moss wall moist. And I turn it around and I spray it at the back as well, because as you can see, those area roots have come through that moss wall and are now going straight down into the leca. So spraying it this way is actually enough to keep that moss wall moist. So that right there, that is quite addictive. I love doing that, and I love to see how the nutrient solution just seeps into that moss wall. So I do use Growth Technology Foliage Focus when I'm spraying my moss wall. I'm going to give this moss wall a year, and I know that after that time, this moss wall is just going to be absolutely magnificent. I'm going to have all those gorgeous leaves just going all the way up to the top, and it is going to be striking. Next up is my Monstera Adansoni monkey mask. This plant was an absolute star in my collection before I moved house a year ago. When I moved house, obviously condition changed. This plant looked terrible and just tanked. I did some rehab on it, and I've got a video that shows how I did that. Just check above. And I made some cuttings. It just really couldn't be saved in the state that it was. I made some cuttings, I repotted it, and I basically recreated that moss pole. And look at her now. Look at those luscious, luscious leaves. The plant is really taking off. That's what she looks like now. She looks absolutely fantastic. I gave her one of my plastic sheet back moss poles, and she's really responding very well to this one. You can see some of these leaves, like that one. That was one of the older leaves where the plant was not doing very well. That's what I kept and used as cuttings, and that's pretty much on its way out, really. I mean, I could clip them off and the plant will be doing just fine. So I'm really loving how this is going. Fabulous internodal spaces there. This is going to be a lovely bushy moss pole. It looks absolutely fantastic. So the lesson therein is sometimes you just have to start again. If a plant is not doing what it is you want it to do, or the vision that you've got in your head for how this plant needs to look is not being actualized, it's okay to start again. So you either redo the moss pole, worst case scenario, you can even just get yourself another plant, because remember, this hobby is about making you happy. My Monstera Adansoni monkey mask, looking peachy. Next up is my spider plant. This is my curly Bonnie spider plant. This plant is absolutely fantastic. She's glorious. She looks absolutely brilliant. I had this plant, it was living in soil actually when I first got this plant. I could never get it to do well at all. I moved it into Leca and it became glorious. And then when I moved house, I kind of lost interest in it. I wasn't watering it as much as I should have been, and it tanked. In the video above, I show you how I gave it some rehab. I decided I was going to love it again and I was going to bring it back to its former glory, and here she is. This is her living in her 14 centimeter cash pot, but look at those leaves. There's very minimal brown tips. She's got some pups going on over there, and she's got some new pups coming there as well, and I think that's a flower. Yeah, if you look here, there's a little white flower that's coming up there. This spider plant is absolutely happy. One of the things about spider plants, especially when they're living in Leca, I don't know about soil now because I don't know too much about soil at this stage, they love to drink. They drink all the time, and they have the most gorgeous root system. Look at that. Look at that plant over there. Those roots are just to die for. It is doing so well. I think it's safe to say that I have given my spider plant a fantastic rehab, and she is loving life again. Broke up the pups. I used my Monstera Thai Constellation to demonstrate that it's okay to trim the roots of your plants that are living in semi-hydro if they become excessive. And when I did this, I got a lot of, oh my God, are you crazy? Why are you doing that? I'd never do that. That's cruel, that's terrible. I got all sorts of comments. But I want to show you this plant. That is my Monstera Thai Constellation. She survived that, and not only did she survive it, she's thriving. This is her here. This is her newest leaf. That's the newest leaf there. It is huge, and I expect that probably the next leaf that's going to come out of this one, there's actually a new leaf that's already lining up there. There's a new leaf there lining up, almost coming out. When that leaf comes out, I suspect that it might even have a secondary fenestration. I don't know. But all in all, this is what happens. I'll show you what's happening with her roots now. That is her root system. So that plant has completely recovered from that root trimming and is doing really well now. Those are her roots. She's living in Leca. That is her reservoir over there. So that just goes to show you it is okay to trim your roots. Your plant will be just fine, and sometimes that is just something that you have to do if there is a lot of roots, especially when your plant is living in semi-hydroponics. The conditions for root growth are just too fantastic, so sometimes they just go a bit insane and you just need to get rid of them. That is my Monstera Thai Constellation, loving her life after root trimming. Now, you all know that I love me a Syngonium. Syngoniums are fabulous plants that are relatively cheap, very easy to take care for, give you fabulous bang for your buck, and just look absolutely amazing. One thing that Syngoniums love to do is they love to climb. Last year, I created a Syngonium moss wall. I wanted to get a big group of different kinds of Syngoniums, put them on a lovely moss wall and watch that grow and make it something like a living wall. I would love to do that. I would love to do that. But anyway, I'll show you what my Syngonium moss wall is now doing. This is my gorgeous Syngonium moss wall here. As you can see, it's alive. So that is a win. But not only is it alive, those plants are thriving. Look at this panda over here. She's looking absolutely glorious. That's a new leaf there. That plant is starting to stalk. So the plants are now starting to attach to my moss wall. This plant, it's still very early days with this plant. I only really just made this moss wall about a few months ago. So there's still quite a long way to go, but I'm really happy to see that my plants have survived the transition. They're starting to attach to the moss wall and new leaves are coming and things are looking really good. This moss wall is actually a plastic sheet backed moss wall, a little bit different from my Enjoy moss wall. I really wanted to do something different, and just to show you that you can apply the principles of a plastic backed moss pole into a plastic backed moss wall. So that is my gorgeous baby here, doing so well, living in her Lechuza pot, and I'll show you how easy it is. That's her there. I can just pick her up, You can see the roots that are showing at the bottom there, and you can see the nutrient solution dripping. So very easy to handle, very easy to flush that leca, very easy to change out that nutrient solution. That there is my Syngonium mosswall, loving life. Last but not least is my golden ivy Epipremnum aureum. This is my plant here. This plant used to be massive. It was the biggest plant I had in my collection. It'd gone all the way up to the ceiling. It was over 2 meters high. There was nowhere else for me to go, so I had to chop it. I chopped the plant up. Check out the video in the link above. I chopped up the plant and I actually transitioned it from soil to leca. So I gave away the bottom bit that was planted in soil and I transitioned the top bit into leca. And this is the plant here. She is alive and she is thriving. So when I chopped up the plant, it was all the way over here. So all this here is new growth that has happened since I've put the plant in leca. So this is where we were at when I chopped up this plant. That's how big those leaves were. I think she needs a bit of a drink. She's a bit dry. And I was a bit careless with her. I left her out in the sun. You know, she would fall down. So the leaves are not as pristine as they could be. That's my bad. So from here to up there, all this is new growth. Look at that. Look at how big that is. So things are starting to really look good. This here is the newest leaf. Oh, trying to see if I can show you. Look at that variegation. It is just really yellow. It's looking really, really good. More new leaves everywhere. And I think it's safe to say that this plant has exceeded my expectations. I would love to show you what the root system is looking like in leca, but I can't pick it up and make this video at the same time. So that'll have to wait until I've got an assistant to help me. So as you've seen, the new leaves that are growing are not as big as the older leaves. And why is that? The plant has been diverting a lot of resources to creating a new root system because the only roots that the plant had were the roots, the area roots that were held within the moss pole. So those leaves are a little bit smaller and that is to be expected. The size will get bigger as the plant continues to climb and settles further into the leca. I expect this plant to really take off this year. She will be great again. Check out this video and see how I chopped up my gorgeous big plant and converted her into leca. I'll see you there.